With the recent passing of American rapper DMX, which stands for Darkman X, I thought it would be timely to perhaps introduce some of you to the rapper and a couple of his records, both of which were released in 1998. And both of these records went straight to #1. They sold multiple platinum amounts of copies and kind of immediately solidified him as a hip-hop legend. And he was everywhere at the time when I was growing up. And I never actually took the time to get into his music, and so it was a few years ago, like mid-2017, I went through the first 4 of his records on the blog, and so today I'm going to read about the first 2 albums that he dropped in 1998. I don't know why DMX never sparked my interest before. From 98 to 03, the New York rapper killed it with a string of 5 records debuting at #1, making him the 5th highest selling hip-hop artist of all time. Of course, commercial success doesn't equate to taste. Once again, it was YouTube suggesting a performance of his at Woodstock 99 that drew me in. It's one of my favourite festivals, and I had no idea he performed there. I was blown away by his stage persona, owning every word, flowing and spitting with that wild hype he has on the track. It might be one of the best rap performances out there, rocking a crowd of 400,000 without a backup crew, just him and his DJ. I wanted to start at the beginning, but a while into this record I realised it was the second of 2 that he dropped in 98. Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood is a typical industry record of the era. A loaded compact disc with tracks and skits filling the 70 minutes without an overarching concept. Swizz Beatz, who made his name with DMX, handles a lot of the production with tight programmed percussion and MIDI instrument arrangements. They have a lot of space for X to flow, just a couple of additional strings and keys looping short melodies over tight thumping bass lines and grooving drum patterns. It's not too crowded, yet packs a punch in the better tracks. DMX strikes me as a logical step forward from the likes of Tupac in terms of mainstream appeal. He has that crisp, fluid, coherent delivery, making for easy following. His tone a little deeper, lyrics nastier, and of course brimming with anger and energy that spills out in his legendary wild barks and what shouts in the background. He even growls like a dog too. It's a remarkable, confident burst of energy that sparks up the tracks. With a distinct style, X doesn't drop the smartest set of rhymes, but with a reasonable vocabulary, he has the craft to storytell and walk you through his thoughts, an internal dialogue or scenario just like a pro. His style elevates on tracks like Slippin', where the gang life and violence take a backseat to emotions and introspection. There is a fair bit of mediocrity in the track listing, a few features mix things up. The locks sound great on these tracks, and Marilyn Manson gives a chorus to the dark and gloomy The Omen. On occasions, things gel better and produce banger tracks like the opening Bring Your Whole Crew, thanks to a wicked hook from P Killer. X's personality is loud, pronounced and in your face. He spits like fire, and in fairness, it's a big draw for this record, which he carries a long way. I don't expect this one to hold up as I get used to his discography, however it has been a really fun introduction to one of hip-hop's biggest names. After starting with DMX's sophomore record, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, we rewind to his debut released earlier the same year. It's widely regarded as his best, a commonality for hip-hop debuts. Hearing X's wild and ferocious flow for the first time would certainly give listeners a strong attachment to this record, but it's the record's production and beats that give it more juice, not to mention the banging Rough Riders anthem kicking off the album and X's debut track Get At Me Dog, beefing up the track listing with 2 of his best. They both showcase 2 sides to this record caught between the early and late 90s sounds, some sampling oriented beats and a lot of programmed instrumentals. The album really comes into its own with X Is Coming, a dark and harrowing song where X says some very sketchy things in the name of blowing up his persona and extremities of his rap style. It introduces slick drum arrangements with mafioso string sections, creating an air of powerful, menacing criminality. The following Damien introduces a character who features on the following record. It's a narration between X and his thoughts, or better yet, the evil voice in his mind that leads him to bad places and situations. He gives Damien his own voice, a nasal, high-pitched inflection that has the tone for malicious intent, and we follow the two talking back and forth in conversation. Between his vibrant "what" shouts, alarming barks, and menacing growls, X's flow is energetic and easy to follow. The words roll effortlessly and come at a hyped pace. He's more impressive with the energy he gives and the knack for fiery hooks than his lyrical wordplay. A notable trait is to change the tone of his voice when shifting back and forth in the narrative. His storytelling is fluid, blunt, and raw. Sound effects of screams and sirens painting a hellish criminal vision on the cinematic ATF. He is no wordsmith, but it's the unleashed, unfiltered character that really sells it. And with the nefarious instrumentals, the elements feel in the right place on this record, although its production is a little mixed in the beginning. There's a cover of Phil Collins' "In the Air Tonight," which is a very memorable reimagining of Phil's timeless hit. As great as this record is, I do feel like X could deliver a little more. He's got such a great style, but his lyrics fall flat when unfocused and drifting into foul-mouthed, violent braggadocio. Either way, I love this record. I'm sure it will grow on me with time too. And with 4 years now passed by, I gotta say that there are certainly a handful of tracks from each album that have kind of stuck around. They're always fun to go back to when they come on shuffle. But much like the industry at the time, many records of this era, they're trying to fill CDs to the brim, and so there's the really good songs in there. Then there's a lot of filler too, and those songs haven't stuck around as much. But anyway, the recent passing is obviously sad. It's always sad when a person passes on, and he's left behind some really fantastic art that I think anyone who likes hip-hop should definitely check out, because he's just got a fantastic energy, and hey, you might really enjoy it. So 2 records here that I would recommend if you're curious about DMX and checking out his music. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to see some more of my music blogs, go check the website out. Every page has over 1,000 articles sorted by artist, year, genre, and more. Just hit Ctrl F and have a search for something that interests you. You can find a link to the blog in the description box down below, where you'll also find links to my other YouTube channels. Check them out if you are curious. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to subscribe to catch the next upload.